is Tanya Cherry. I am the co-executive director of the Eastern Florida State College Foundation, and I just want to welcome you all to the Simpkins Speaker Series featuring Trustee Winston Scott. Cindy will give you a formal introduction in a few minutes, but I just want to take a moment to talk about the speaker series in general and then introduce a student that we have here with us. The Simpkins Speaker Series was endowed by the late Bernie Simpkins, longtime supporter of the college, a community business leader, successful entrepreneur, and philanthropist. He established this speaker series back in 2001. It is held twice a year in the spring and the fall, and from speakers all over come to Brevard County to share their challenges and triumphs in business and in other areas of their life. They are always free and open to the public. So remember, fall and spring, watch for the speaker series. In addition to the speaker series endowment, Mr. Simpkins also created the B.W. Simpkins Entrepreneurial Scholarship. To date, about $35,000 has been awarded to budding entrepreneurs. We award 2 to 4 scholarships each semester to students with entrepreneurial spirit. We have one student with us here today, and we will present an award for $1,000 for the spring semester. So our student is Mr. Jonathan Honeycutt, if you'd like to come up. He is the owner of 2 businesses relating to the entertainment industry. He manages these businesses as well as being part of the talent, and I can attest to the talent because I've seen him play many times. He says that being a business owner is not for the faint at heart, but he's been fortunate to work and learn from other entrepreneurs, and he loves that he's able to make his own schedule. He feels it is a lifelong learning experience and cherishes those experiences. I'd like to present you with a $1,000 check for the B.W. Simpkins Entrepreneurial Scholarship. All right, so congratulations, Jonathan, and Cindy, it's all yours.
Congratulations again, Jonathan. That's terrific. Good morning, Titans and friends. My name's Cindy Kane, and I have the pleasure to co-direct the foundation with Tanya. Before we hear from our speaker, a bit of housekeeping. I want to remind all of you that if you download a Slido app and place the code 0321, how appropriate, you can ask questions of the speaker, and it's up right here. Also, if you need proof of attendance today, there will be a sign-up sheet in the back of the room at the end of the presentation. And of course, please silence your phone. You know, many of us have been asked since a young age, what are we going to do when we grow up? We might have even been asked that when you finish college or, high school. And sometimes we just really don't even know. And, you can't even believe that a musician, a husband, a father, a Navy aviator and captain, astronaut, and college executive did not know his answer either. Winston Scott grew up in Miami, and when he was in the 7th grade, he joined the school band. There he found a love of music. So when it came time for college, Winston thought, you go to school to study something that you're good at. So he enrolled at Florida State University as a music major, but he met other students that were studying other things and became interested. He took several classes in math and engineering, and he continued his studies in graduate school where he earned a master's degree in aeronautical engineering. From there, as a Navy aviator, he accumulated more than 7,000 hours of flight time. And as an astronaut, he logged 24 days, 14 hours, 34 minutes as a mission specialist in space during 2 missions and 3 spacewalks. What an honor to have Winston Scott as our Simpkins Series speaker today. Captain Scott.
Thank you. Thank you, and good morning. I appreciate that warm welcome. It is a pleasure being with you here for the Simpkins Speaker Series. It also is a pleasure being the newest member of the Eastern Florida Board of Trustees. So I'm enjoying myself on the board. I'm still kind of the new kid on the block, but just an incredible university, very, very, very well run, and my thanks to Dr. Ritchie for giving me this opportunity. I have my phone in my hand. I'm not being rude here, but there are a couple of organizations that I'm supposed to give a shout out to. So first of all, shout out to all of the Eastern Florida State College campuses and all the people who are viewing from there. But I'm told that we have students from Cocoa High with us, also Space Coast Junior Senior High, and the Emma Jewell Charter Academy. So just a good shout out to all those folks. Glad that you all are with us this morning and hope you're going to have a good time. I have my wife Marilyn with me today. She's sitting over in the corner there. And we both are Florida natives, you know, both born in Miami, but we didn't meet until years later up at FSU, go Noles. And And we've been together for a long time, from the early days in college all through my career and so on. You know, it's really interesting when Cindy was introducing me, she was talking about how as kids we get asked quite often, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm still wondering what I want to do when I grow up, you know, because I'm having so much fun in life. It must be, I still feel like a kid every day, although I've been around the block a couple of times. Okay, we're going to get started here in just a little bit. If you came here this morning expecting some kind of academic lecture, you're going to be disappointed. There will not be a quiz at the end of the period. All there will be, I hope, will be smiles on your faces because we're going to have a whole lot of fun. What I have to share with you is an audio-visual presentation, and it tells you a little bit about my space experiences, and I'm going to do that relatively quickly because the most fun part is when you get to talk back to me. So go ahead and think of anything you may have wanted to ask about flying in space because you'll get a chance to ask it here in just a little bit. Again, this is very, very informal, so you're going to see me moving around and referring to the screens there. And with that, we've made arrangements for some very, very technical and complex instructions. When you're a pilot, when you're an astronaut, everything has to be precise. So what I'm going to say is when I get ready to go to the next slide, I'm just going to say, next slide, please. And then I think that'll take care of it. All right, with that, why don't we get started, please? Okay, long, long ago in a faraway place called Miami. That's where I was born and raised, and that's my family. My pointer's not working too well. The upper left-hand picture is my family in Miami, Florida, back during the 50s. And you can see, it's an old photograph, obviously. My mom and dad, they've passed away now. The young girl in the middle, she must be about 12 years old, I guess, is my big sister. She's retired. She taught school in West Palm Beach for 40 years, been retired for a long time. The little guy on the left of the screen is my baby brother. He's also retired. He was a deputy sheriff in Atlanta, Georgia. And then, who is the cutest one on the picture? Fast forward, upper right-hand picture is high school graduation. That was taken in my living room after the ceremony. Fast forward again, the lower picture is I've graduated from college. I've been in the Navy for maybe 8 years or so, and I'm being promoted to the rank of lieutenant commander. Trivia, I attended all segregated schools up through 9th grade. Some people may think that segregation was way back, and you read about it in history books. It wasn't all that long ago, because I am not that ancient. But our schools were segregated until 9th grade. Brown versus the Board of Education was 1954. Didn't integrate schools until 1965 or so. So I left Carver and Tucker Elementary School, went over to Coral Gables Senior High School in Miami, which was historically white high school. And then you see kind of the evolution of our country in integration through my 3 pictures right there. And then now in the Navy, of course, everything is fully open and integrated. Next slide, please. The Navy trains all of its aviators in fixed-wing airplanes, and then some of us get additional helicopter training. And that I was selected to go to helicopter training back in the 70s. The tail end of the Vietnam War was going on. So I got to fly this one. This is the SH-2 Foxtrot anti-submarine warfare helicopters. We don't hear a lot about it on the news, but there's some people in the world that don't like us that have submarines. And one of the ways we combat submarines is through helicopters. So I flew these off the back of destroyers for a number of years. We had a full array of sensors to detect, track, localize, and attack submarines. We carried torpedoes. So I have over 100 landings on the back of a destroyer in helicopters. Next slide, please. Most of my time was spent flying fighters, because after my helicopter tour, I went back to fixed wing and flew a lot of different airplanes, primarily this one. This is the Navy's F-14 Tomcat. It was the frontline fighter in those days. A lot of you may not know airplanes, but you do know the movie Top Gun with Tom Cruise. Everybody does. It's kind of a modern day classic. This is the airplane that was featured in the movie, but I got to fly it for real. I'm not a movie actor. That's a real picture. They didn't stage it. I was a test pilot up at one of the Navy labs in Warminster, Pennsylvania, and I just landed from a flight, and they took this picture. I don't remember all the details, but I think they took it because they were going to put it in the company newsletter. This is where I was stationed when I was selected for astronaut training. Next slide, please. Okay, 2 space shuttle missions. The upper left-hand slide is my Endeavour crew. Endeavour was the newest of the shuttles. We'll see if something happened. We need to go back again. But anyway, I spent 9 days on Endeavour with those folks. Lower right-hand picture was my Columbia crew, 16 days on Columbia. Trivia, on the lower right-hand side, if you look all the way to the right, the guy with the yellow and blue flag is General Leonid Kadenyuk, former Soviet Union cosmonaut, wound up with the Ukraine as a Ukrainian cosmonaut, flew with us on the space shuttle. Now, Leonid passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately, but I just point that out because we're flying in space together. The folks on the International Space Station, the Russians are up there, we're up there, and all of that's going along harmoniously when we have the turmoil going on down here. So, international crews, as you can tell, 6 guys on the first one, 5 guys and 1 woman on the second flight. And I don't think anybody in here will be fooled by the fact that there's only 1 woman on the slide. You know, we have many, 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 many women in the space program. Women doing everything, flying airplanes, commanding the space station, and so on. So young ladies, you know, space is open to everybody. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, everybody on the shuttle in my days and on the International Space Station had many things that they're responsible for. And I did too. I had 2 primary jobs. Because I'm a pilot by background, I was a flight engineer on the shuttle. So I was part of the flight deck crew that actually operated the vehicle. But my main job was spacewalking. So I got to put the suit on and go outside. The way we practice for spacewalking is underwater. Some of you know this, some of you may not know it. There is no such thing as a zero gravity practice room. You can't go in and turn gravity off. So what we do is we put on a mock-up of the suit, and the water sort of floats the suit, and we pretend we're in weightlessness. Not the same thing as space, but that's the best we can do. Now, that suit weighs 350 pounds. That's right. The upper left-hand slide, those yellow straps are attached to a crane. When we're closed up in our suit, the crane will lift us up, move us out over the water, lower us into the water. And what you don't see in the lower right-hand picture is the team of scuba divers under there. The divers are there to help us practice our maneuvers and also there for our safety, because if something goes wrong underwater, you can't swim or walk in a 350-pound suit. You depend on the divers to get you out. Space is an amazing place because you can separate weight from mass up there. Can't do that here on Earth. The suit in space, the weight disappears. It doesn't weigh anything, but you still have 350 pounds of mass, plus your body mass, plus your tools that you're moving around. So physically speaking, this is the most difficult thing that we do in space. Next slide, please. Oh, this is my Columbia crew posing in front of our T-38 aircraft. How many of you know, I think maybe you do, that all active American astronauts live in Houston, not Cocoa Beach? That's right. You go home and watch I Dream of Jeannie. Those little crazy astronauts live in Cocoa Beach. No, real astronauts live in Houston. I live here now because I'm retired. But I could get up in the morning in Houston, jump in this thing, and an hour and a half later, I'm landing here at the Cape. Go to my meetings, do whatever I needed to do, jump in that thing, an hour and a half later, I'm back in Houston. No way in the world could you do that on the airlines. I tried to get them to let me keep one when I retired. Well, they told me, no, you can go, but you got to leave the jet here. Next slide, please. This is the morning of launch of my Columbia crew. We're sitting around the breakfast table. We will leave the table here, get a weather brief, put our launch and entry suits on, then go out to the pad where Columbia is waiting for us. This picture was taken probably 5 hours before actual liftoff. Next slide, please. Okay, we finished the weather brief. We have our launch and entry suits on. These are the suits that we wore when we launched into orbit and when we re-entered from orbit. Once you're up there, you're in a shirt-sleeve environment, just like this room, with the exception, obviously, of when we go outside. You have to put a spacesuit on. This picture was probably 4 hours, excuse me, probably 4 hours or thereabout before actual liftoff. Now, next slide, please. Okay, we're at the pad, 195-foot level. It's my turn to climb in. That hatch in the back is the actual hatch to Columbia. This is the white room. These guys are suit technicians. They get me partially suited up. Then there's an astronaut inside to help us get strapped in because the shuttle, as all rockets do, sit up right on its tail. So you have to climb in and kind of wiggle up into your seat and lie down with your feet up in the air. It's awkward, so you need somebody in there to help you get strapped in, and they do. This is probably 2.5, 3 hours before actual liftoff. Okay, next slide, please. Should be video. This is where the action really starts. Yes, 7 seconds before liftoff, the ground launch sequence, the computer will ignite the main engines. And if all 3 engines ignite properly, then the solid rocket boosters will ignite, and you're off to the races. It always looks like slow motion on video, and it surprised me because on my first flight, I thought we were going to float up in slow motion. The clock hit 0, and boom, this thing jumped off the pad. It kicked me in the backside, and it was shaking and vibrating. And I remember thinking to myself, I hope Mission Control doesn't ask me to read something on my gauges because they're all shaking and vibrating. We exceed 100 miles per hour before we clear the tower, past Mach 1, the speed of sound, in roughly 45 seconds. And we continue to go faster and faster and faster and faster. I can remember in both flights watching my gauges. I could see Mach 2, Mach 3, Mach 4, Mach 6, Mach 7, Mach 8, Mach 10, Mach 12, Mach 13, Mach 15. We just go faster and faster and faster and faster. In fact, I always like to relate. On my first flight, we launched at night. Dark out there, obviously. But about halfway through the ascent, I could look out of the front windows and see the day half of the Earth approaching. So we went from sitting on the pad to 17,500 miles per hour in only 8.5 minutes. It is truly an eye-watering ride. But it's a rocket, and that's what it's supposed to do. Next slide, please. Oh, I have to digress just a little bit. People always want to know, what are the requirements to become an astronaut? Well, astronauts are pilots, astronauts are engineers, doctors, physicists, meteorologists, and so on. But if you want to be at the top of your game and be on the A-team as an astronaut, you have to be a fashion guru. Here, this is the Columbia crew. This is a real picture from Columbia, the middeck. We're modeling our lucky shirts. Everybody bought one. This is the second ugliest shirt we could find in the Land's End shirt catalog. And the reason we bought the second ugliest is because the ugliest one in the catalog was sold out. I kid you not. So if you're worried about something, students, if you're worried about your grades, parents, if you're worried about your students, COVID's bothering us, the political situation, go buy yourself a lucky shirt, and I guarantee a good outcome to whatever it is you're concerned with. Next slide, please. This is one of our payloads, a Spartan 206 solar observation satellite. We took it into orbit. Our robot arm operator, the woman in the red shirt, there's Dr. Kalpana Chawla from India. We called her Casey. Casey was our robot arm operator. She used the shuttle's arm to lift that satellite up out of the payload bay and place it into orbit. We were supposed to back away from it for 48 hours, during which it would make measurements of the sun's corona. Then we fly back up to it. Casey would grab it with the arm, put it into the bay, we bring it home. Scientists could download its data after flight and learn more about the sun. Satellite malfunction. It developed a spin in space. So you've got a 3,000-pound satellite very slowly turning in space. But it was turning with what we call complex motion, okay? It would turn in one direction, then it would undergo a nutation, turning in a different direction, another nutation, another direction. So you got a 3,000-pound thing sort of wobbling all over space. Well, because it was moving, she couldn't catch it with the arm. But this thing is expensive. I don't know about you, my American Express could not handle $10 million. We had to figure out how to get that thing back. So over several days of consultation, it was decided that my buddy and I would go outside on a spacewalk and attempt a manual capture of that satellite. So we're going to see that here in just a little bit. Next slide, please. Okay, we have jumped ahead in the timeline. The guy next to me is Dr. Takao Doi, Japanese astronaut. Takao was on his first flight, getting ready for his first spacewalk, and we're asking him to go outside and try and help catch the satellite. So we're inside the airlock now, but before we put on our spacesuits, we have to put on the appropriate undergarment. That thing is called a liquid cooling and ventilation garment, or an LCVG. And what it does is it stabilizes your body temperature while you go around the Earth. See, we orbit the Earth every 90 minutes, so you've got 45 minutes in direct sunlight, and the temperature can be plus 200 degrees Fahrenheit. On the dark side of the Earth, it can be minus 200 or 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So you've got these extreme temperature swings as you go around, and this garment helps to stabilize your body temperature. So we put that garment on the LCVG. Next slide, please. Then we put on the EMU, extravehicular mobility unit, fancy name for a spacesuit. Put the spacesuit on over that undergarment. And if you look at the picture, you can see the classic backpack. Every movie you've ever seen with space people, they have a backpack. Yeah, that's not for your lunch or books or anything. There's real life support stuff in there. Also, I've got microphones, headphones. There's a computer on the front of the suit that monitors suit functions and allows me to interact with the suit, determine what's going on there. Notice how big and bulky the fingers are on that glove. When they're pressurized, very difficult to work in. All of the tools that we use outside have to be specially manufactured so that we can handle them with those big, bulky gloves on. So we'll get our helmets on, we'll get the airlock closed up, we'll depressurize the airlock and go outside. Now, I just told you in 60 seconds what it takes several hours to do. It's not a quick process like that. Let's see, next slide, please. Oh, this is just the picture of me with a complete suit on. You can see the helmet, backpack, and everything. This soccer ball looking thing is really a robot. It flies, and its eyes are stereoscopic television cameras. Everything the robot sees can be beamed back into the shuttle, station, mission control, or whatever. And the idea is that if you need to inspect the outside of your vehicle or your station, you send the robot. Then if you detect damage, you send people out to repair it. This is the first time it's being tested right here. I powered it up and launched it, and our pilot flew it around through a test profile. Then I caught it, powered it down, and put it back inside. Just one of the cool, fun things we took into orbit with us. Next slide, please. Another one, Takao and myself outside. I'm on the left, Takao is on the right of your screen. We're testing a crane. The crane won't even stand up under its own weight on Earth, but in space, it's expected to move hundreds of pounds of mass around, so we're testing it for the first time here. How do you tell us apart in space? My suit has stripes on it. See the red stripe on that leg, on my legs? Takao's suit is clean. That's how you can tell us apart. Otherwise, our buddies right inside couldn't tell who's who. Notice also that the upper left-hand corner, that blue streak, that's orbital sunrise. If this picture were moving, the shuttle would be moving backwards away from you into the screen, and you see the sun peek up over the horizon there. You see 16 sunrises and sunsets every 24-hour period of time. Absolutely incredible. So, we're flying backwards into the screen. Shuttle was not like an airplane. Airplanes always have to fly forward to generate lift. Spaceship, you can fly forward, backward, upside down. We even had a rotisserie mode. If we wanted to stabilize the temperature, we could actually rotate the shuttle over and over again like a turkey on a rotisserie. Amazing what you could do with those vehicles. And there's a purpose behind all that. If you're observing something on the Earth and you wanted to aim at it, you could actually position the shuttle within a fraction of a degree of what you're aiming at. So just incredibly complex vehicles. Okay, next slide, please. Back to the satellite capture. I'm on the left of the screen, Takao is on the right. Our commander has flown us up to within the close proximity of the satellite. We're watching it to be sure its motion had dampened. We've jumped ahead a couple of hours. I grabbed my end, Takao has grabbed his end, and we're rotating that big thing forward so that we can lock it into the payload bay. Notice the Earth is vertical to us in the back. I remember very well when we were doing this. I asked Kevin, our commander, to rotate the shuttle support. And as he began to rotate it, the earth began to tilt out of the corner of my eye. And when the earth tilts, you feel as though you're falling. The vertigo, the disorientation was really almost overwhelming. I was worried for a while that we might not be able to get this done. But we did. We caught it, we locked it down, brought it home, and it was repaired and sent up on a subsequent mission. But again, that vertical earth there in the background, foreign to anything you do down here, just really disorienting, but we got the job done and brought it back. Next slide, please. All right, this is one of my favorite pictures. When I first started doing these presentations, that picture got in there, and I was going to take it out because it has no scientific value to it, has no operational value to it. It's just a fun picture. I was floating up at the window at the end of a spacewalk, and they took this picture. No big deal. Everybody that's done a spacewalk probably has one like this, except dudes, this picture turns up everywhere. If you Google me, it will come up. It's on bookmarks, mouse pads. It's been on posters, been on billboards. I have actually visited people's houses and found a coffee table book on space. Look in the index, find my name, turn that page. That picture. A friend of mine sent a photograph of herself back from London, England. This is several years ago now. The Museum of Science in London, England. She was posing in front of a 12-foot mural. Guess what was on the mural? That picture. But the kicker is that picture has spiritual and divine implications. How many of you remember those fans you get in church? It's on a stick and a cardboard thing, and you fan like this? Oh, yeah. Guess what was on the church fan? That picture. Now, I know some of you are saying, oh, that's so cute. He's just making that story up. But, ta-da! I was taught that only one person's picture should be in church. The kids is in church. And if it shows up in church, it should be everywhere. So I'm going to leave that picture in my presentation forever and a day. Next slide, please. We're at the end of a mission now. We do what's called the Deorbit Burn. That is, we fire the engines to slow the shuttle down, and then gravity begins to pull it back down into the atmosphere. Then we flip it around to the appropriate entry attitude and re-enter the atmosphere. At one point, we're going so fast through the air that the air actually ionizes. So that bright glow you see there is hot plasma generated by our speed through the atmosphere. Remember on launch, I said we passed Mach 1, the speed of sound, in about 45 seconds. We exceeded Mach 25 on the way in from the atmosphere. In fact, I have a 25 patch on my jacket here because we exceeded Mach 25. Anyway, during that part of the re-entry where it's hot, the temperature outside varies. It's in the thousands of degrees. But we're comfortable inside. We have our suits on, and the environmental control and life support system is working properly on the shuttle. So we don't feel all that heat, but in reality, you're riding inside of a big fireball. 45 minutes or so later, and you can give me the next slide, please. We're overhead Kennedy Space Center. There we go, getting ready to land. This is through the picture through the front windscreen. That's called the heads-up display. All the flight data is displayed on the windscreen in front of the commander and the pilot, including the runway. Remember, the shuttle had to be landed right the first time. You couldn't add power, go around again. So you got all your data in front of you, and the computer will actually generate an overlay of the runway to help us find it. I don't know how many pilots we have in here, but if you're flying, you know that sometimes you have a hard time picking out the runway. You know, you're looking out in the distance and everything blends together. You can't afford to do that with the shuttle, so the computers all assist you. Gear comes down, we touch down, and somewhere around 200 miles per hour, and then roll the wheel stop. We've come all the way from orbit on the opposite side of the Earth, re-entered the atmosphere in a controlled manner, dissipated all of that energy, and then hit a spot on the ground with no engines. And we do that, of course, because of the people that designed it, the engineers and navigation people, or computer people. They make the astronauts' job easy. They're the real smart people that design this thing. When you roll the wheel stop, you can't just open the door and get out the way you do in an airplane. It takes 3 of us on the flight deck about 45 minutes to power down the shuttle's internal systems, and the ground crew will come out with a convoy of trucks and ground support equipment, transfer power from inside to outside. Also, you have to get used to being back. You've been weightless for, in this case, 16 days. So you want to get used to being back very gradually. After about that 45-minute period of time, we open the hatch, and the first person to come in is the doctor. The flight surgeon wants to come in, check us out, talk with us, see how we're doing. If everybody's doing okay, we very carefully make our way off the shuttle in seclusion and begin to reacclimate. One thing you've never seen astronauts actually walk off the space shuttle because they're in seclusion. Some people don't walk as well as others. If everybody's feeling okay, we'll take off those bright orange launching entry suits, and we'll come back out. You give me the last slide. Okay, well, that backed up a little bit. We have a parachute to help slow us down, and give me the next one. There we go. This picture was taken a couple of hours after we returned. Again, we were all feeling okay. We took the orange suits off. We come back out with our blue flight suits, and we thank the ground crew for a good, safe trip into orbit, and we take pictures like this one. So you see 6 happy faces back from 16 days in orbit. Again, 16 days, and I've condensed that in about 15 minutes. So obviously there's a whole lot more in there that I did not tell you. But this gets our appetites whetted, and at this point, I'm happy to entertain any questions or comments that you may have for me.
So if there's any questions here in the crowd, we do have a microphone we can get to you, but we also have questions online. So if you haven't yet, you can go to sli.do and just enter the code 0321. And so any questions in the crowd to start? Okay. And
Check 2.
I assume, but when you went in to get your, when you came out of the shuttle and you went in for that couple of hours and got your new suits on, do you take a shower as soon as you hit the ground? And how good does that shower feel?
Oh, the shower feels fantastic because you don't have a shower on the space shuttle or the space station. Water floats all over the place. So there's no shower. What you have to do is take a sponge bath. We use liquid soap. You spray it into a washcloth. You soap yourself all up. Then you take fresh water from a hygiene hose into that washcloth. You rinse yourself off, and then you towel yourself dry. So when you get back, you want a long, hot New York shower. You have to do everything up there the same as you do down here. You have to obviously shave and brush your teeth, comb your hair, and so on. Shaving, guys, a lot of them use electric razors. I use disposable razors and shaving cream. Actually, it's called Astrogel. It's just gel, yeah. Yeah. The generic gel. And I would use disposable razors. I'd shave and then throw that razor away next day, shave. Because again, you don't have running water. You can't rinse razor. And shampoo your hair, rinse the shampoo. I guess they use it in hospitals sometimes. You just put it in your hair and lather it up and then towel it dry. And that's what you, so when you get back, you want a long, hot shower.
I would imagine that you had to have a lot of training to go up into space and you had to have a lot of simulations, but what was the scariest part of being an astronaut?
People always ask me that, and fortunately, nothing happened that was scary. It was exciting. Even the satellite capture, that was a serious event. You know, that wasn't a trivial thing. Our State Department had to get permission from the Japanese government for Takao to do that. And again, he was on his first space flight, first spacewalk, and we're going to catch a satellite. Satellite has sharp edges on it. There were certain places you could not touch or should not touch. You can imagine what would happen if you cut a glove in space. You're having a real bad day. You don't want that to happen. So, but it was exciting. I can think of it as being scary.
So at 25, you weren't scared?
No, Mach 25, I wasn't scared. Again, it was very, very exciting. The launch, entry, the whole bit. And it's just the nature of the business.
we'll take a question online while we go back through the crowd. So if you have a question, crowd, raise your hand. Okay, so this is from online, somebody viewing another location. What was going through your head the first time you actually left Earth, emotionally and logically? What were you thinking?
I was thinking, this is so fantastic. It's like Disneyland multiplied times 100. I can remember kind of laughing and giggling on the way up because it was so exciting. But at the same time, I'm watching my systems and gauges to be sure everything worked properly. It's just, there's no other word for it, just exciting. Trying to take in what's going on at the same time doing your job. So there are no words that adequately describe how it feels. But
Awesome.
yeah.
Take the question in the back.
Off topic a little bit. What high school did you go to in Miami?
I graduated from Coral Gables High School.
Okay.
Yeah, are you from Miami?
Yeah, well, my entire family is that 6 kids in the family, and everybody was born there but me. I was born here, but my dad, his entire family was there. So I was just curious to see if you went to the same school.
Yes, Coral Gables. The Gables at that time were the big dogs in football. No, seriously, Coral Gables Cavaliers. In fact, not me, I didn't play football, but our high school football team, the Coral Gables Cavaliers, 1968, was the Sports Illustrated high school football team of the 20th century. And we just saw the LA Rams win the Super Bowl. One of the players on the LA is a Coral Gables Cavalier. Now, obviously, he's this generation, not my generation, but really fine school, fine music program, fine sports program. Where are
Great,
we?
yeah, we have a question right back here.
What do you think of the current private space efforts?
I absolutely love it. What you see happening in space, many of us, and I was one of them, were pushing for 15 years ago. This didn't just happen overnight. I had the privilege of directing the Florida Space Authority a few years ago. It's called Space Florida now. You with me? Used to be the Florida Space Authority. Jeb Bush was governor. I directed the Space of Florida and reported to Governor Bush through our Lieutenant Governor Tony Jennings. And we were pushing back then for NASA to embrace commercial space flight and for the 45th Space Wing to open up the Eastern Range and so on. So it's happening now, but we pushed for it then. And I love it because the private companies are doing exactly what they do best. That's making space affordable and cost-effective. The government is very good at funding esoteric, cutting-edge things, but private entrepreneurs, business people, are very good at making it cost-effective. And that's exactly what's happening. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Virgin Galactic, and those folks, Boeing, and others are doing really good jobs. So I love what's happening. I consider that the private commercial part is part of a larger space program. You know, you've got the NASA part of America's space program, you've got the private commercial part, you've got the tourist part, you've got the Space Force, the military part. All of that makes up America's space program in my mind, and each side we want to be strong. So, positive. Where are we?
All right, we can take another question online. So this comes from a teacher at Space Coast High School, he wants to know, what advice would you give to his awesome career research students trying to find their path in life?
I would say that they have to be open to all possibilities and don't be afraid to pursue what is right for them, no matter how bizarre it sounds or it feels. You know, what they're passionate about is inside of them. Only they know what that is. And they need to get in touch with that, whatever it is. And if they pursue it and don't give up, they will be successful. And again, I can say no matter how bizarre it is, because remember, I was a music major at Florida State University. I was going to be a musician, a professional musician. But then something hit me about science and engineering and technology, and it would not leave me alone. It was there persistently, so I followed that pathway, totally switch careers, so to speak, and the rest, as they say, is history. And if I had listened to other people, I never would have done that. Because nobody knows what's inside of you, and people will tell you, oh, you can't do that. That's not possible. No, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. So they have to get in touch with their passion and then follow it and then not give up.
Great. If there's any more questions in the crowd, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll come around with a microphone.
I got one.
And we can take another question online. What did your time in space teach you? Did you ever doubt yourself when you were up there?
No, never doubted myself for a minute. No. Look, I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just like everybody else. I make mistakes and mess things up and all, but you can't go to this kind of business, the business of flying airplanes, military airplanes are flying in space, if you doubt yourself. You just got to have the confidence that you can handle whatever comes and that you can handle it well. As a matter of fact, when we were getting ready to catch that satellite the night before the satellite capture, that was the best night's sleep I had in the whole 16 days we were up there. I kid you not. I just knew we were going to be able to do it and get it done well and safely and get the job done. So, you know, it's a matter of, no, I didn't doubt myself at all.
That's good.
Yeah. Oh, I think you asked me did you ask me what did I?
what did your time and space teach you, and did you doubt yourself? So you answered the doubt.
Yeah, time and space, not just in space, but time in the military and at NASA taught me a number of things. But one message was really driven home is that people are pretty much the same every place. If you remember those two pictures I showed of my crews, they were all international crews. We had American astronauts, obviously. We had Japanese astronauts. We had somebody from the Ukraine, somebody from India. We had men, we had women, we had blacks, we had whites. Everybody we had so much diversity on the crew, but those differences melt away when you get to know people. I can remember when I showed up as an astronaut candidate, and we had 19 American candidates and then 5 internationals. And when we first getting to know each other, of course, you're trying to remember who's who. I can remember, okay, this is Koichi. Koichi's from Japan. Okay, and this is Mauricio. Mauricio's from Italy. And this is Jean-Francois Clevois. And the Clevois is from, but pretty soon, those differences go away. It wasn't Koichi from Japan, it just Koichi. It wasn't KC from India, it's just KC. So when we get to know each other and we work together and we get past the outer trimmings, we find that people are pretty much the same everywhere. It's governments that can't get along well together, but individuals work well. So my message for all of us and for young people is that we do everything we can to look past barriers and look past color and gender and all that stuff, and let's get to know each other down inside, like Dr. King was trying to tell us. And we'll find that we have much more in common than we have differences.
That's great. We have a question in the back.
Where are you?
I guess that kind of leads up to my question. What's your greatest disappointment or challenge that you've encountered and what you've learned from it?
My greatest disappointment or challenge? Well, there have been a lot of challenges along the way. You know, my first challenge was segregated schools. I can remember growing up in Coconut Grove, the all-black section of Coconut Grove, and not having really good equipment in school. I didn't realize how bad we had it until I got over to Coral Gables High School and looked back on it. But for example, when I was at Carver Junior High School, in those days it was junior high, not middle school, shop class, for example, industrial arts, all the boys took industrial arts and the girls took home ec. Remember those days? Some of us remember. Well, shop class, you know, we spent the whole year, didn't build a thing because there's no material, there's no equipment. It became a big babysitting session. And so that was an obstacle, not having the right equipment that we needed to really have a good education. On the flip side, the teachers were outstanding. Our teachers were excellent. My 5th and 6th grade teacher, Mr. Franklin Clark, little segregated Tucker Elementary School, Mr. Clark tried to expose us to as much as possible. I remember one time Mr. Clark talked to us about the concept of a light year, you know, how far light travels in a year. And he had us calculate by hand a light year. So we were racing with these long strings of numbers trying to calculate how far light travels in a year. Well, of course, our numbers weren't accurate, but that wasn't the idea. That was he was introducing us to the concept of a light year in 5th grade in a little segregated Carver. So my point is that the obstacles were not real nice equipment, but on the other hand, we had really outstanding teachers. There were other obstacles to overcome, as you can imagine. I was in the first group of black students to integrate Florida State University. There were onesies and twosies there before me, but I was in the first group that sort of went en masse. En masse means that maybe 50 of us out of 20,000 in the issues that we faced back then. But again, you know, the university opened up and they listened to us and they implemented certain programs, and now we are where we are now, a much, much better place. We're not perfect, but we continue to improve and evolve. So yeah, obstacles all along the way. In my military career, I was always the only black pilot in my different squadrons and so on. So I could go on and on and on and on, but the obstacles are there, and obstacles are going to come to everybody. Young people who are listening today, you're going to have obstacles. That's part of life. Everybody does. Everybody does. The key is how you address those obstacles. You overcome them, you don't give up, and you push forward. So where are we?
We have another question in the back here.
All right.
Actually, I have 2 questions. Somebody asked me to ask that. Number one is, how different is your training from the actual liftoff? And number 2, we want to know if you still keep in touch with all the other astronauts.
Yes, the training, of course, is different from liftoff because you don't have a practice launch that's realistic. The only thing that's realistic about launch is a real launch. So you can simulate it in simulators. They can shake and vibrate and get visuals and all that stuff. But until you actually feel it, then that's the real thing. Same thing with spacewalking. You know, you do it for real the first time you do it. There's no way to simulate or practice it with 100% accuracy. But NASA does the best that they can, the military does the best they can to prepare people, and they do a pretty doggone good job of it. And the rest of it we have to adapt on the fly. And the other question about keeping in touch, yeah, you do keep in touch with your compatriots. Over the course of a year, there may be different events where people get together. COVID put a damper on some of that, but it's starting to open up again, so we have events together. And then you keep in touch with each other by email and text messages. I know Buzz Aldrin very, very well. I used to know him, talk to him all the time when he lived here. I sent Buzz an email 2 or 3 days ago. I expect to get an answer here pretty soon. But yeah, well, yeah, Buzz is Buzz. So but the answer is yes, you do keep in touch different ways, and it's good. It's a fun thing.
We have another question right here.
Sure, a twofer, if that's okay. First, why is Mission Control in Houston and the launch pad is here? and forgive me for asking this second question. Did you ever see anything you couldn't quite explain while you were out in space? I want to say it the right way, so I don't know how to ask that question. I'm sure you get it all the time, but I'll ask it.
I saw something I couldn't explain on TV this morning. It's called Washington, D.C. Nah, I'm kidding. All right, I had to get back in there. The answer is no. I didn't see anything that was unexplainable in space. Now, NASA has a series on cable called NASA's Unexplained Files. I don't know if any of you have seen it before, but it's a series. And it's UFO-oriented. They feature different astronauts, and some astronauts have seen things that they could not explain. I've been on there, where I was only talking about my missions. So nothing I've seen was unexplainable, but remember, we're playing around our own backyard. We really haven't ventured very far out into space. And I forget, the first part of the question was, I think, yeah, why is Mission Control in Houston? Politics, yeah. LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, you know, Johnson got some funding for NASA in return. Mission Control in Johnson Space Center was placed in his home state of Texas, in Houston, Texas, and we launched from the Cape, which is where the program started. So, you know, politics come to play in that, where the money goes and so on. So that's the reason. So we launched from the Cape, and launch control is here, and then mission control is over there, and then you land back over here. So, yeah.
We have another question right here in the center.
How do you not lose consciousness at Mach 25, and what impact does that have on your body?
Oh, interesting question. Yeah, even though you go in Mach 25, you don't necessarily feel that because everything around you, the vehicle, everything is all going the same speed. So relatively speaking, you don't feel anything. It feels as though you're riding an airplane or a car or whatever, even though you're going that speed. It's not like something is different. And you still, when we hit 25, we're just beginning to decelerate. So we're just beginning to feel gravity come back on us. It's gradually starting to push down on you. You begin to feel heavier and heavier. But you never exceed human limits. And that's part of the criteria, obviously, for designing spaceships. You've got to design in such a way that you can get people up and get people down in such a way that you don't exceed the human capabilities and injure or kill the people. So yeah, even though you're going really, really fast, you don't feel it. In fact, when you're in orbit, going around the Earth at 17,500 or whatever, you don't feel that you're going that fast. You feel as though you're just floating. When you look out and down at the Earth, now you can see how high you are and how fast you're going. But you know, it's all relative. Where are we?
Okay, we can take another question online. Our students on our Palm Bay campus are watching live stream, and they want to know, when during launch do you lose gravity, and how do you describe feeling weightless?
Yeah, you don't necessarily lose gravity all at once. What you feel at liftoff is the acceleration. The acceleration is this way. Remember, you're lying down and you launch, so the acceleration is this way. We call it transverse G. Positive G is this way. That's what we feel sitting in this room. We're all at 1 G. Gravity is pushing us down. That's why we stay on the floor. We jump, we come back down. Negative G is what you feel when you're on a roller coaster and you go down suddenly. and your stomach kind of comes up, that's less than 1 G, okay? The human body can take much more transverse G than you can take positive or negative. So when you launch, to the students, it builds up to 3 Gs this way, and then it holds the 3 Gs all the way up to orbit. That's why you can go from 0 to 17,500 miles per hour in 8.5 minutes. So you feel 3 times your weight pushing you this way. That's all you feel until you get to orbit and the engine's cut off. Once the main engine's shut off, the acceleration stops, and then everything starts to float, including you. And you are in continuous weightlessness until you get back into the atmosphere. And there are no words I can use to make somebody feel continuous weightlessness. It's just something you have to feel when you get there. I can describe it, and you've seen it on TV and in the movies, but there are no words I can say to make you feel it. It's fun in a way, but it's also uncomfortable because your body was not meant to live in 0 G. It takes a little getting used to being up there and can be uncomfortable until you get used to it.
All right. Any more questions in the crowd? Yeah, in the back.
Yes, hi. I have a question about Space Force and
Yes.
for young people. Space Force now is our 6th branch of service. I come from the 5th branch of service, which was not widely recognized at the time as a branch, a military branch. So I kind of understand what it is to feel like being left out or not recognized. So now that we have this new 6th branch, can you tell us a little bit of what we should expect for like our young people and what rates and what the mission is for this branch?
Yeah, the 6th branch, obviously, as you just said, and you all know this, is the Space Force. And the idea is that we do need, it's unfortunate, but the world we live in, you have to have a strong military, and we need to have a strong military presence in space. NASA is not military. NASA is civilian. You know, and so we need a military presence because other countries have been militarizing space for years. Some countries have shot down satellites from orbit to show that they can do it. You also have cyber issues coming at us from orbit. We need to be able to protect our assets on Earth, protect our assets in orbit, our satellites. Remember, our communication system depends on satellites, navigation system depends on satellites, healthcare, telemedicine, all that stuff. So we have to have a secure, we have to have the ability to protect our assets in space from other people who might be our enemies attacking us from space. Attacking from space today does not necessarily mean launching weapons. It might in the future, but it could mean cyber. It could mean electromagnetic attacks. So my point is we have to have a means of protecting ourselves in space, and that's what the Space Force will do. And the Space Force is brand new, so it's still in its infant stages, but I'm sure its rank structure will probably be like the Air Force, you know, that rank structure. So people who go in will probably have the same type of rank and promotions and things like that as they would in the Air Force. You must come from the Coast Guard.
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah. Coast Guard is, she says, has not been recognized as a military service, but Coast Guard has been on the front line of fighting from day one. You know, sometimes under wartime they report to the Secretary of the Navy, but Coast Guard is the one service that never stands down. They operate 24/7. The hurricanes come out there, somebody gets trapped in a boat. Who goes to get them? The Coast Guard. So my hat's off to Coast Guard folks. So anyway, where are we?
Okay. We have a question up here, but we're going to take another quick question online. Who were your biggest supporters during your journey to becoming an astronaut?
My biggest supporters, I had a lot of supporters in life during my journey to become an astronaut. Probably some of my Navy buddies, Navy contemporaries were encouraging to me. I didn't tell a lot of people what I was doing. So it goes back to that old thing about knowing what you want to do down inside of you, and you don't tell a lot of people because they won't understand. So I just pushed on and pursued it and tried to prepare myself, and at the appropriate time elicited support from different people who could write letters of recommendation for me. And sure enough, I did get support from all people. Not all people, from several different people. What I'd like to emphasize too, especially the students, is that, you know, we see a lot of divisiveness and divisive talk on the news in this country. And I would like to have people reject that, because you know, we live in a world really where people are pretty much fair across the board. You know, we're not perfect, but we're fair. Some of the people that helped me the most did not look like me, and some of the people that helped me the most did look like me. You know, so I just urge young people to open, to work together with everybody support everybody, and you go from there. That's, yeah.
We probably have time for one last question.
Oh, my
'cause
goodness,
we got
one last.
5 minutes, so I think from one of our scholarship recipient here. Yeah.
So I'm curious what it looks like from outer space, like low Earth orbit, compared to like photographs, and just how that changed your perspective of just our planet.
There are no words to describe how the Earth looks from up there because it is so beautiful. It's bright and colorful, and it looks clean and calm. The pictures, again, don't do it justice, but colorful is one word that always comes to my mind. Everything is bright and colorful. Even the deserts of Africa. When you see desert on TV, people are trapped in the desert. It's all this brown sand, and people are starving. But if you look at the desert from space, it looks like an orange in the desert. It looks like an orange peel, sand dunes. Miles apart, but look like bumps on an orange peel. There's like a red in the desert, black, some green. Even the oceans themselves are different shades of blue and green depending on a number of things. So the Earth is incredibly bright and colorful and beautiful. But the main thing I notice is how calm and peaceful the Earth looks. If you turn on the news, you see nothing but turmoil. But from up there, you see no turmoil. Everything is so quiet and peaceful. And I know other people have said this, but I'll echo it. You don't see any boundaries. You can't see where one country starts and another country stops, or where one ethnic group lives and another one. So you don't see any of that. You see one Earth. Also, the Earth is small. You can see the boundary of the Earth, but then you can see all that other stuff out there too. You can see other planets, depending on when you're up there and where you are, other bodies in space, and you realize just how small and how fragile the Earth is. In the total scheme of things, it's just a little insignificant piece of dust. It's important to us because it's home. But because it's so small and fragile, you'd like to see us all do a better job of taking care of it. All of us do a better job of working together as one family, because we truly are one family, and that Earth is home. So,
All right, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, Mr. Scott.
Thank you so much to you all. Again, I appreciate being your speaker today. Good luck to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.